Hello, how are you?
Adam.
Yeah. Hello and
I'm calling
welcome.
for a T1 flat for rent in.
I muted him. Someone help Adam rent a flat. Anyway, hello and welcome to the Monday, April 4th, 2022 DXbiz Dev call. We have quite a light agenda. Under DXbiz discussions, we're continuing the discussion on Agave auction, which is in the forums. Don't see much activity, like the last response was 6 days ago, but yeah. Under DX events, we have the entire Dev Connect or ETH Amsterdam week coming up. Lots of things with that, and maybe there's some sort of giveaway free money that's going to be happening during the call. We have swag and Atlantis World, one sort of like a project that DXDAO is sort of partnered with. Has a carrot campaign that's ending ending next Thursday. That's one, and the second one is they want to partner with us in ETH Amsterdam and create sort of like a mini metaverse world. And under DX Ventures we have Double, that's public, and that is it. I don't know if so. Do you want to maybe Chris? Do you want to start maybe with the Agave auction participation?
Yeah, I guess perhaps I'm also in the car for the next 15 minutes, so maybe someone else can hop in. But I think there's not actually, this is a thing in flux, and there was a post up in the the Gnosis forum from Agave, I think this morning or late last night, that put some additional details or meat on the bones for what that proposal, that reimbursement, the refund proposal would look like. I think it's still a lot to be determined. But there would be kind of like three components of that. One is a GNO reimbursement that's paid by Gnosis. So half of the funds lost were GNO, and so Gnosis would refund those. And then for the remaining funds lost, which I think is around like $3.7 million there, those will be funded by a token sale or which will both be an OTC deal with Gnosis and also a token auction. And that is to raise hopefully around $3.7 million, which will be used to refund the lost funds. And then the only additional wrinkle or interesting kind of setup is there would actually be a $3.7 million loan deposit available immediately to pay off depositors, which would then allow a little bit more time and space for that token auction to actually take place. But I think that's the latest from the forum there. I think there's still a lot of questions on how what this, I guess, the structure is, who the team is kind of managing it. It doesn't really seem to be much in terms of funding a lot of future development. John, I don't know if you want to maybe take over.
I think that was a good cover. That I just put the link in the chat here for that post. It is a little bit complex, but Chris covered it, I think, well with how it's set up. I think the three things that we've talked about so far, kind of looking for here, are one, the technical plan for recovery, two, a roadmap from Agave, and then three, kind of information about the team and how the team is going to be funded. So I think this post starts to get at, how they're going to do the recovery. It covers well how they're going to procure the funds to reimburse people. They also said they're going to do a redeployment of the Agave protocol because a whole bunch of things are out of whack, I've talked about in previous calls. So they're just going to redeploy everything and I think manually kind of reimburse people based on where things are at. So that's starting to look good from that perspective. They also kind of address a little bit what their plans are at a high level in terms of roadmap, saying they're focusing on things to do with the AG tokens, which are the tokens you get back when you deposit. They're the interest-bearing version. The Agave tokens, if you deposit DAI and you get AG DAI back from Agave. So I mean, all that seems decent to me. What the biggest concern I still have with this, and this is more from the investment perspective, and I think that's important for us if we're thinking about participating in the auction, is that this plan does not specify any funds dedicated to like paying the team. They are going to acquire something like 3.7 million or so through an agave token swap with Gnosis DAO, and then the further 12.5 thousand auction of agave tokens. They're going to acquire 3.7 or thereabouts $1 million of capital, but it seems from this post like the plan with that is to deposit it in the protocol. I guess that's good from a TVL perspective, but then pay back the loan from Gnosis over 2 years with that money. So that only leaves like whatever they're able to generate in terms of fees and revenue, as well as like their store of agave tokens for incentivizing and compensating the team. And I think that may work for some of them, but there's a couple of part-time folks that have high-paying US-based jobs that I think would be looking for something more stable. So it seems like it would be unlikely that they would join full-time. And it just what's I think really missing here is like what's the plan around that?
Yeah, so I'm wondering, they're also doing the token swap, right? So in theory, they could pay some of these contributors in GNO as well.
So there's the GNO is getting kind of refunded. That's like 50% of the lost amount. Then there's a loan from Gnosis for like another 3.7 million or so. That's like the other that should like cover up to like the rest of the amount they reimburse. It's like up to 80%. Yeah. And then they do a swap and a sale, and that should generate like another 3.7 million. So yeah, there is they're going to have the capital initially, but from this post, it looks like the plan for that capital is basically just to put it back in the protocol and then use it to pay back the loan. So that none of it is set aside, from what I can tell, at least, unless I'm missing
for salaries, I guess,
for like base pay on salaries. Like what I would be looking for from like an investment perspective is, here's a chunk of stable coins. I would think like, at least 1 million or so. And our goal is to bring, some people on full time and so on and so forth. Like something like that, I think would be like a minimum, in my opinion, as to like what should be in place for like a plan with the team. And so
that's my maybe comment there. Do you want to comment that, John?
Yeah, so absolutely. We were I was talking a little bit with like Chris and Dave and a couple others on how to like address this with them. And so I think we're going to try to ask the team privately about this. They kind of just express this opinion that, hey, like, we're kind of concerned that this part of the plan is not addressed. Do you guys have anything? See what they say privately, and then we can also bring that conversation into the forum as well. In addition, there is an AMA at 8 p.m. UTC time, I believe, in the Agave. I assume it's going to be in the Agave Discord. So I encourage anyone who's actually like interested in following this or getting involved in the discussion to join that AMA, because we'll see what other people are thinking, and then we also get a chance to ask.
Who's responsible for the loan? Like who has the liability? Because
who's providing the loan?
No, who has the liability?
I'm a little unclear on that. Like it's either the Agave team, but it might be Karpaki, like actually just administering everything is sort of what like the post sounded like, but I don't know.
Well, and the same question, Sky, what is the collateral for the loan? Like what assurances do you have, does Karpaki have, if that loan is not paid back?
Yeah.
But I guess that's maybe where the sale comes in, because that capital will be there. Like they could just pay back right away in theory, but I think instead the plan is to keep it in the protocol, like give it a TVL boost, I guess.
Yeah. Because if it's the team, which is the people, that's a huge responsibility to take on as people. If it's the protocol, like the actual like protocol, then it's Agave token holders that are responsible for doing that. But like with the other unclear thing is like who is making decisions for this entire Agave ecosystem? Is it the actual team? Is it Agave token holders? Do Agave token holders have any say? like who we don't know how the governance of the system actually seems to work, right? And then and because we don't know who's responsible for the governance, you also don't really know who's responsible for this loan, right?
Yeah, and I think, is there a question of like the agave governance right now, right? And who's responsible for this? But then will that governance structure change when 25,000 additional agave tokens are on the market and Gnosis owns I don't know how many of those? So there's kind of like almost like the governance of things like right now and who's dictating it, and then like in the future, how will that kind of be? Well, the dynamic of that will be. I think like broadly speaking for DXDAO, we really are kind of somehow like at the center, but not really like have any, interest, or I guess we really don't have any conflict of interest, I think, here. And I think we're kind of like a free agent in a lot of ways. And I think it kind of behooves DXDAO to figure out how to use this as an opportunity to like help the Gnosis chain ecosystem, kind of build a deeper relationship with Gnosis, and kind of some of the other strategic options we talked about before. But I think really improving relations with this ecosystem of all these different kind of players that are going on, I think is also a goal.
Yeah, so after the 12.5 thousand, well, I guess it's 25,000 additional tokens, right, between the swap and the sale. So that puts the circulating supply at 55K. And then Gnosis would have at least 12.5, which would be about 23%. But they could end up with as much as 45% of the circulating supply.
Yeah, but even compared to like rep holders and DXD token holders, it's clear what both of those sets of parties do and have rights to and things. And so even if, because agave token holders currently don't have really say in anything that I know of, even if Gnosis and DXDAO held a bunch of agave tokens, it's not clear if that actually is voting power, because there's not an actual DAO, right?
That's my impression. Yeah, I don't. It sounds like in theory they would want to be a DAO controlled by the token holders, but in practice they maybe are not really there yet. That's kind of my general impression, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess a multi-sig, but I guess this is like all DAOs at the moment. I guess aside of a few, but yeah.
Yeah, but even if like there's token holders like and there's a multi-sig, but the community has expressed that token holders have say and their vote is what will be executed by multi-sig. I know that's not a perfect solution, but that's at least clear in a lot of communities. In this community, it's not clear at all. Like as an agave token holder, I have zero say that I know of in anything, basically. That's the problem. It's different.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
like,
I don't know if they even do like a snapshot or anything. I'm actually like looking.
could we even think of, and we don't even know if agave token is like DXD token. Like, does it get revenues from the protocol and stuff? We don't actually know that. That's not communicated very clearly either, I don't think. So
another thing, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say another thing to consider from like the investment perspective, I think too, is like what the landscape looks like. At the moment, there's really like no active lending protocols, since 100 and Agave have both been like hacked, and I think basically are still both offline, and probably will be until the hard fork and the fix gets implemented. But I think they're both planning to kind of get stood back up. I imagine though there will be other lending protocols that come to Gnosis chain. I'm also aware that I think people at Gnosis and Gnosis DAO are trying to get Aave to come over, and I've heard something like that could happen later this year. So there will be other lending protocols as well. I think Agave may be the only chain native one though that really like started with XDAI and has always kind of been there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a question of like strategy, and yeah, wondering if there's any. I mean, I'm sure there is, but figuring out like maybe synergies between Agave or like the lending protocols and then some of the programs or some of the apps that we are using, the apps that we are creating. Yeah, wondering if there's any way to incentivize maybe something in this raise with Carrot. Yeah, I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't really have anything interesting.
So I did just find an Agave snapshot that looks like maybe is active.
Yeah,
Maybe-
Nylan, I'm not sure. Like if if there's something that we could think of that we would want to incentivize in that community, and that could be, our investment, has built-in incentives or something, which complicates things
Yeah.
even more. But unless we know what a clear incentive would be, I don't think we'd want to push Carrot into it.
There is a natural, I think, use case with Carrot with this could be any lending protocol, is to use interest-bearing tokens as collateral rather than the non-interest-bearing versions. And that's kind of attractive because the tokens are like generating some extra cash flow while being locked. It's like the old capital lockup problem with prediction markets. Like it's good to have interest-bearing versions that you can use. And it's also mentioned in the post how eventually in the future there could be like a DXDAO lending market. And so I think the idea with this is that it would be like kind of a separated market that's like isolated from the other markets that includes a lot of the DXD or DXDAO tokens. And I guess the reason you want to isolate it is just like from a risk perspective, like when you have a set of tokens in these lending markets, they're all kind of exposed to each other in some way, right? Like the solvency of the system depends on all of the tokens like in aggregate, right? So if you listed one asset that was maybe a little more riskier, it like changes the risk profile for the platform.
Yeah, Aave v3 actually has a design kind of on that because that allows more assets to be listed. And I think whatever that design is will be like a very important part of the next wave of lending platforms, because that's really how you can expand the addressable market.
So Aave v3 will by design allow separated markets, isolated.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing actually where they have like you can do 4 or 5 assets or something like that. And I think it's a good idea. You kind of like, hey, here's like an ecosystem or something, and that's you isolate the risk there. And so where was that was coming? That was like part of the roadmap for where Agave was saying they were exploring that. That was in the post, right?
It's in the post. Yeah, it says under the future of Agave section, it says ability. This is one of the bullet points: ability to create partnerships with deeply aligned ecosystem participants for isolated lending markets with a deep focus on the tight community of Gnosis chain. And then there's a couple examples, one of which is DXDAO lending market, like ETH DXD, Swapper, Agave, Omen, as like an example.
Yeah, I wanted to read about like Aave v3. I think there's a good like Bankless podcast with Stani where he explains some of the stuff. I think there's some like cross-chain elements as well, or multi-chain rather. Yeah, I guess interesting stuff. And then I mean, if we are investing in Agave and Aave v3 is gonna come to Gnosis chain, how would that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's benefits to having one that's like chain, more focused on the chain. Like it'll give more attention to specific assets. It's got better connections to the community. But yeah, certainly like that, more lending markets and the name brand ones like Aave coming with, next gen, versions of their platforms and stuff like that, that's going to create a lot of competition, right? And it could, yeah, I mean, it could mean that Agave gets like surpassed at some point, right?
Yeah, I think that would be good for Swapper, but like not for Agave, because it would mean probably more liquidity, more trading, more activity on Gnosis chain. But I think it'd be hard for DXDAO really like to take any part of the lending market share if Aave is there. And I also think it would be pretty hard for Gnosis to do that. And I guess like that's kind of the question is like, is Gnosis interested in having like a chunk of a lending protocol on Gnosis chain, or are they just interested in having like a deep and robust lending market on Gnosis chain, regardless of how it gets there? I think it's probably the latter, that they just want to have a lending market and are trying to do whatever they can to make it happen.
Yeah, because I've heard from Gnosis people that they are like actively, and we've seen like in the post in the Aave forum, like one of the Carpac key guys, like, basically asking them to deploy on Gnosis chain. So they're definitely trying on that front as well. I think the timing, somebody else mentioned this, I think too, but like the timing is a thing too, right? If Aave doesn't deploy till later in this year, like you still need, like if Gnosis chain wants to experience growth in the near term, it needs a lending market like now, right? So that's part of it, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to say something?
No, yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, maybe like I guess there's still some things we can figure out. There's the AMA, but yeah, I think it needs some further like diligence and probably a little discussion. But
Yeah,
I've been waiting for more from Gnosis themselves, because like this is, or Gnosis DAO, or like whatever group, because I mean like the posts in the forum are from Monstrosity and Luigi, and I guess there will be like a poll on them, but I'm just kind of like wondering what the reception of Gnosis DAO is, or
yeah, like some indication of how this vote would go, right, on the GNO side. It's hard to know.
And then the people that are voting yes, like why are they voting yes? Is that because they want to like build a big lending protocol and are like willing to devote resources to it? But I guess this has kind of been like negotiated with Gnosis, but is not really like like they haven't really come out and said anything about it.
I mean, I would feel like Gnosis feels some responsibility for this, and then this might not be, strictly like a business decision in terms of, okay, this, invest, like this is like good in terms of ROI, but more like, okay, there was like a bug on Gnosis chain, or something different with the implementation, and we want to make the community whole. So it's more of like a strategic, I don't know, recuperation, if that's a word, of the community, rather than like a full-on business decision. So yeah,
I agree with that. I think it is like the savvy approach to take responsibility, and the proof is in the pudding a bit here, right? With the hard fork, right? They're changing how the chain works as a result of this. So I think it makes sense to like address that head on, and like I don't think that necessarily means they should have to like reimburse everyone, but putting some money behind that is maybe a smart kind of PR move as well.
I also agree with that, but I think taking Agave tokens is not necessarily required to achieve that PR move. So what is the justification and plan for the 15,000 Agave tokens that Gnosis DAO will have?
yeah. I mean, so yeah, I guess this is interesting, and there's still some, I guess, due diligence and research to do on the topic. Yeah, I want to try and figure out if Aave is planning to come to Gnosis Chain, and I would think they do. I need to finish listening to this Bankless podcast, but I think that a lot of this has to do with, like, multi-chain world of sort of Aave, and the ability to sort of like take, I guess, a loan in one place and have it collateralized on another place, and stuff like that. So I would imagine they would want to be in Gnosis Chain, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard that they will be, but maybe not like in the first round of deployments, but at some point they will end up there.
Yeah. So kind of, maybe a strategic outlook on that. I guess we can move on to the next topic. Generally, sort of like the entire Dev Connect and Week in Amsterdam. So I think the first thing is there, Melanie, is there any specific activation for, the nail bar at the Daoist?
Yeah. So many of you might know or don't know, we will be having a nail bar, a suggestion from Dave that really came to life over the past few weeks. What we're having is nail technicians come in and apply nail decals onto anyone who's interested or wants them. Nail decals of like our DXDAO logo, the Daoist logo, and then just other words that are DAO related. So we have a nail bar at the conference on the 19th. It's a 2-day conference, so it'll be on the second day. And the banner is going to say DXDAO nailed it. And it's kind of, the theme is just like bringing DAOs together, and that's our special activation as a sponsor. We have a booth, and I don't have much more details on it. I know the Daoist is taking care of a lot of it, but we're getting the decals, and if anybody's interested in seeing them ahead of time, I'll show you. But looking forward to that. And then we also have a special carrot activation. I'm not sure if Sky wants to talk more about that, but that's what we have so far for us specifically in our nail bar.
Thanks for helping with this, Melanie.
You're welcome.
Yeah, the carrot activation campaign, there's a forum post about it. We did a poll to gauge decide like if it's a good idea and what the community thinks about it. There's been some votes. There's been more votes for the full campaign, and some votes for the smaller version of the campaign. It'd be interesting to hear what would be the benefits of the smaller campaign, because the whole idea is, it's a carrot campaign and it pays out only if you get results. And so the question is, what is the full value of if we got actually all 50 of those influencers following DXDAO actively on Twitter? Is 50 or $45,000 worth that achievement, basically? And I guess more people voted that it is worth that, and some people voted that maybe it's some amount smaller than that. But then we've been looking at the logistics of how to implement this campaign. Using link drop seems to be working on Gnosis Chain. It actually works really well. We would be putting the carrot tokens once created in the multi-sig, and the actual you create these unique URLs, we'll make them QRs, we'll have those printed out, and people will claim those doing a transaction on Gnosis Chain and claim the carrot tokens, and the actual carrot token, which is ERC20, comes directly out of the pot, which the pot is actually still sitting on the multi-sig of carrot tokens. And then you can also give XDAI in addition to the ERC20. So anyone that claims it can get a bit of XDAI and some carrot token into their wallet. if they don't have that already on Gnosis chain. And then the dynamics of how people will treat the campaign and the behaviors they'll take is still kind of an unknown. We've come up with some ideas and some goals around how and who we want to distribute these things to, and we'd want to explain, as many details as possible, probably help them claim the carrots, and then also there's a plan to create some size of a secondary market of that carrot token on Swapper at the same time on Gnosis chain, and have liquidity like with some price between 0 and 1 immediately from the start. And so people could buy these carrot tokens, sell these carrot tokens into that pool on Swapper. So it's really amazing. Yeah, it's an amazing campaign for awareness of carrot plus Swapper, plus the idea of incentives, plus DXDAO, social media, plus interactions with a bunch of big influencers in the space, having either direct contact with them or having people who hold these carrot tokens having some contact with those influencers, letting them know about this campaign. So I think whether or not they like, having to follow DXDAO or not, like them learning about carrot and Swapper and the campaign and DXDAO is additional benefit. So if there's consensus that we want to move ahead with this, the plan would be for this week to actually create the carrot campaign, get the carrot tokens live, get those in the multi-sig, do a little bit of testing with them, and then create the at any time we want, create the actual link drop codes to test them and have them ready so that we can have them ready to distribute in person in Amsterdam. So we can do that as soon as this week. We probably want to do a proposal to request the total funds and the details of the campaign on XDAI, on DXDAO base on Gnosis chain, to get approval from rep holders to move ahead with the campaign and actually request the funding, which can probably be in wrapped XDAI is the easiest collateral to use in the carry campaign. We could use USDC if we wanted to, but we can also talk about that. But that's the summary of where we're at for that. Yeah.
That's great. I mean,
Yeah.
anyone has any?
Yeah, I would have added that if Carrot was a little more advanced, but it's just too early, and if it had allowed us to collateralize 2 different tokens, we could have chipped in with a little GNO, because this is an amazing campaign to also onboard users to Gnosis. Not many, because it's pretty much limited to the people that we give out the QR codes to, but still it's not tied to any particular DApp, or it's not about liquidity mining. It's not a reward. It doesn't have to be something massive, but we could have used GNO, but unfortunately we won't be able to use it.
Yeah. All right. I mean, so Sky, is there like an action item or something that we need to decide?
Yeah.
So if there's consensus that we want to go ahead with this, well, there's soft consensus in the forum with some votes, but there would be a proposal, an on-chain proposal that everyone can vote on to actually secure the funds into the multi-sig in order to move ahead with this campaign. So that would be the proposal that actually decides to go ahead with it and fund it, basically.
Maybe Dave could recommend whether we use USDC or wrapped XDAI, whichever is more convenient.
Yeah, I talked to him, so we can use either one. For some reason, I think the DAO and also it was the DAO, like the DAO is having trouble showing some of the stable tokens that it holds for some reason, but we can use. I think we have enough wrapped XDAI to use that, and that seems pretty clean and clear, unless people thought USDC was better.
So this is referring to this proposal, right?
Yeah.
I just linked this in the chat. Yeah. So
Yeah.
feel free.
Tough. That's the details in the poll.
Yeah.
And there isn't much time left, so towards the end of this week, the latest, we should put the proposal for the actual fund transfer and start creating the Carrot campaign.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I would say this is like, you just do this immediately.
Cool. Anyone have any reasons they want to share to do it in smaller size? I mean, it's experimental, but anyone have any negative feedback or other versions of it maybe they want to share?
I mean, I see from the poll that some people are saying do it with smaller size and not 50K. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is, like, if only 5 of the people out of the 50 follow DXDAO, then we only pay out $5,000. So it's already much like it. The whole point is it should only pay out if we get results. And so is that overall number too much still?
Yeah. Okay, so I guess, let's take it to the forum and, take it to the, like, a DAO vote. And yeah, if people want to, they can vote in the forum. I just linked the proposal here in the GC chat. And yeah, maybe the next sort of topic is the link drop campaign. Sky, do you want to share that and see who's fastest?
Oh, he covered it, but basically he tested it, and it works like a charm, so we're good to go.
Oh, I thought you were gonna do a giveaway now for someone in the
Well,
chat.
you claimed it.
We already gave it all away.
More people want money, man.
Yeah, we could try another one later.
Yeah, it's an interesting anecdote. I tried to use link drop like back in 2019 and 2020. It never worked. Like, oh yeah, so Sky, maybe something to consider.
Sorry, go ahead.
Maybe something to consider is to do like a test with a lot of people. Because like one person might work. I remember back then, like I haven't been following up with them if they have actually sort of like continued this, but back then I would try it myself and then it wouldn't work.
No, it works well. Like, we're doing it with multiple links, and so we're doing it with like 5 links, but we'd be doing this with 225 unique links or so, and those unique links will be QRs on individual handouts, and those are effectively private keys. If you have one of those unique things, and you could also send someone a picture of it if you wanted to, but those are unique links, and all of them will claim as long as there's funds in the actual wallet that is distributing the funds, and that wallet will be the multi-sig. So we've tested it from EOA wallets, but I guess we should do a test to make sure that it can be. I mean, you can wallet connect to it to create these, but we should make sure that the funds can come out of the multi-sig in order to, when people claim them, versus an EOA wallet, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. I mean,
we'll do this with the initiative DAO multi-sig with a small amount. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah, so maybe the next topic is sort of like Atlantis World.
Yeah, they've been really active lately, and Ross has been helping. They wish, because the campaign they have for the extra bonus of 10,000 wrapped X die that was pledged by DXDAO if they delivered on 3 of their promises to integrate DXDAO's dApps in Atlantis World, is coming to its end next week on Thursday the 14th. So they are very active trying to complete the integration. And we even thought of welcoming them on our community call next Thursday so that they could give us a walkthrough. They could either share the screen and show us, or each of us could actually go into Atlantis World and give it a try ourselves. It will be a fun thing to do, because that's basically what will resolve the condition. If they do the work and everything works, then they'll get the money. So
Yeah,
it
so
will be
there's
like testing in prod.
Nathan, just to add though, there are a lot of moving parts here, and like there is this goal of achieving this carrot, but at the same time there's also using smarts. And so like we already have plans to very like change drastically DX vote. And so if they're building from scratch like UI front end into Atlantis World, like does it make sense to build that for the current UI if the whole thing's going to change in like a couple months? And I would argue that it might not be worth doing that. So figuring out how to do this efficiently and smartly, you know, not just to achieve the carrot goal, but to like make sure we're all on the same page and doing this in the best way possible is quite important. And so that's Ross is connected with the team and is talking to them about this. But we don't want to do a whole bunch of work that then gets thrown out in 2 months and has to be redone. And so thinking about that's important.
Yeah, I think they're quite understanding of that. They seem to, I don't think they want to do the extra work either if we're just going to refactor stuff and have something new in 2 months.
So I don't know I'm not sure it's clear what the path forward like today is though. If they should just, you know, and the other thing is DX vote, like, you know, DX vote itself like doesn't load for me half the time. And so like putting something that barely loads into like their UI, as Nathan was saying, it might not be a great experience either. And so figuring out, you know, we don't use the graph, we're, you know, a DAO dApp and things like that. But if that prevents the experience from being good in Atlantis World, like that's another thing to think about, right?
Yeah, I guess Ross, I'm trying to figure out if all the work will be essentially thrown away.
Yeah, so I think they mentioned 2 ways they seem to have these 2 ways. One's just an iframe and one's doing it more natively, like taking the UI and adapting it to actually work better. And I'd imagine if it's the iframe, they can just drop it in and maybe have some basic support, because they were saying they just wanted to, I think, just show it as a demo, not necessarily have it be something lots of people are using straight away. I mean, as they pointed out, it's just rep holders that can vote anyways. And so if they want to do that, maybe like an iframe makes sense for them.
Yeah, so I mean, an iframe is also like it's not very complex to do, like from both
sides.
Yeah,
well, no, it's just like a web browser that's accessing DX vote normally. We need to make sure it's stable, but we can do that.
Yeah,
or at least hopefully we can do that.
Yeah, and then maybe this is
and
sort
then
of
focus
like
on the other stuff.
Yeah, so this is what we do now, and then, you know, maybe when this updates, obviously, you know, we can, I mean, the iframe will update automatically, I guess, but, you know, maybe we could later on build like, or they could build the UI better into their system.
I think that was the idea. I don't know how much they can do either. It could be cool. We haven't designed so far the interface for creating new DAOs or new guilds. It could be cool if that was some sort of interactive in-game thing with them. I don't know if that's something we would look at doing, having the main way of doing something actually being in Atlantis World.
Yeah, so that doesn't exist yet. But like the interesting thing about this carrot is it's actually working. It's getting their developers' attention dramatically for this last 2 weeks. Yet it's also creating like a deadline that may not be a good deadline. So there's like positives and negatives to this. And we're talking about like integrating things of DXvote that don't exist yet into Atlantis World, which obviously doesn't make sense. So the question is, if they just rush to get some integration, and they're also integrating Swapper, and Swapper is a kind of a more clear working product. It's not as simple as Uniswap, it has these advanced things like echo routing and stuff. So whether or not they put that in as an iframe or integration as well is obviously a big decision. But the good thing is their attention is with us. The bad thing is if they're just squeezing an integration that's not like the long-term ideal integration just to finish the carrot and achieve the carrot, that is kind of a negative thing. So we'll have to stay close with them and see how we can make it work best for the short and the long run, right? Without wasting resources, basically.
Yeah. So I mean, I would say probably like the iframe way is like the iframe is the way to go, and then figure out how to do this later on.
Yeah, I think we were also thinking like when we were like, let's get DXvote in Atlantis World, we were thinking like everyone that's using Atlantis World, like all 10,000 people that come in over the next month to Atlantis World are going to be able to like experiment and use DXvote. Like that's why we wanted DXvote in Atlantis World. Like we don't want it in just for our contributors to vote on our proposals in Atlantis World, right? It's like that's less interesting thing. So we had like a really optimistic goal of that integration and like showing DXvote to the world, but the date's not timing up with like DXvote being ready for the world. So we had this like mismatch of dates, I guess.
What's the timeline on the carrot?
15th of April.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that for the full amount that we were giving them?
It's the 10,000, no, 40,000 they got the grant, and this is 10,000 in the carrot. And so if they don't achieve the carrot, and for example, it doesn't make sense to do the carrot, theoretically they could not fulfill this carrot. We get our money back, and we could create a new carrot based on new information we have around DXvote over like the next 3 or 4 months, depending on what our roadmap is combined with their roadmap. So like there is a chance that the carrot doesn't get completed, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. And so we have the optionality to reevaluate objectives and timeline for maybe using another carrot campaign. So it's not like this money is getting lost. It's either we get it or they get it, right? So it's interesting.
I think they'll probably be pushed to even to get that deadline if they're doing even just like a basic DXvote thing and Swapper. It doesn't sound like they've started on either of them properly. Maybe the carrot might just fail anyways.
Well, no, they have a goal to over the next between now and then complete the carrot, but my whole point is like if it's not actually what we want and it's not a good experience, maybe just completing the carrot's not the ideal path.
Yeah, is there a way? I mean, I guess technically there's no way to postpone it, right?
No.
Yeah.
Well, on one hand, it's really funny that they themselves set up that deadline. Like we never told them we should do this ending April. They could have said August. They put April themselves, and like they just woke up to it ending next week, this week, and started chatting us up about it, like asking, can you help us integrate it? So it's in a way they kind of, I don't know whether they forgot about it, but it's like they didn't do the homework and now they're cramming.
No, well, Nathan, no. So as we know, you can ask Zet when he's looks at Swapper all day long. There's 1,000 things that you can work on, right? So they have a huge roadmap and prioritization list. This is now at the top only because of the carrot, right? The carrot is what is getting their attention. Like, that is the reason they are looking at this. If the carrot didn't exist, this is not near their top of their priority. So carrot is actually working. Like, it's actually working the way it should be. Now it comes down to doing the work. The problem is figuring out the work that needs to be done, given that, you know, DX Vote's not ready for the world, and we're about to change DX Vote in 2 months, is a whole new piece of information that is affecting what they should actually do. Like, we don't want them to spend the next 2 weeks integrating the current version and building a UI for DX Vote when in 2 months we're going to change the entire thing, right?
It's almost like a product question for Atlantis. Like, if they integrate a certain dApp and that dApp changes, as any dApp always changes, like, how are they going to go about it? It's almost like a question for themselves.
Totally. And maybe this is the first time they're having to face that, which is a really interesting situation. So it's good. But like, Carrot's working. Their attention is on this, and they are talking to us the last 2 days straight because their attention is fully on this. So that's good. So we just need to figure out what is the smartest path forward for both sides.
So are we able to figure out how to postpone this? I'm not sure if there's like...
No, we don't need to postpone it. We need to figure out what they should, how and what they should integrate. That's smart for the long run. The way you postpone this is the carrot fails, we keep the money, and we come up with a new carrot over the next 3 months. That's how you postpone it. Right?
Yeah. I mean, the ideal solution, and I don't know if this is, so I don't know if this makes sense or how can we do this, but, you know, the carrot fails, we do give them some of the money in order to integrate sort of like a web view. What do you call it?
An iframe. So,
yeah, iframe. Yeah.
do we see value in having guilds on there? Because guilds are in a place where it's probably, like, they won't be changing massively, at least in terms of the UI.
Yeah.
Is that something?
that's
a
a
much
good
better
idea.
fit, yeah.
Do they exist?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that works then.
There's some parts still still being worked on, but if they're just going to start on it, I'd say it could make sense. The issue, I guess, would be what we show in there. Like, we don't have any guilds launched just now that are doing things actively, of course, because we don't have the audit. But I guess eventually having Swapper guild in there would be a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good idea. It seems like that could be a next collaboration or something. Like, unless is that included in DX Vote? Part of
I mean, it's up to them what they would choose to take from DX Vote. Presumably, they can do either or.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do we have the option of just doing additional carrots? Like, if you're making another carrot for a small amount of money, just to incentivize them a little bit in the future?
Yeah. Yeah,
Not
that's
for
a good
10K,
idea.
but just a smaller amount to, like, build on what they've already done.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess this is a decent path forward. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, they've hired new people, and they have devs actively working on it. As Sky said, they're really, it's like a top priority for them at the moment, and it's all due to the carrot campaign. And it's not like it's all bad. Like it's not not always in question. Like the majority of the work, there's a clear path to achieving the task by the deadline. So it's all cool. It's just figuring out how to integrate DXvote in a way that it presents it in a good way. And I believe they've come with a come to a conclusion that they would partially integrate stuff that will not be changing. So I think they'll figure it out. Ross is helping, which is great.
Yeah, I just want to say that like this is truly Carrot working as intended. Like this is great. They're working hard at this because there is a carrot that will give them money. Like it's precisely how it's supposed to work. Then there are complications. There are things we don't know, but yeah, they are working for it. They're trying to figure out a solution in order to satisfy the carrot, which is absolutely great in my opinion.
And as you know, I mean, I'm not sure I can remember the last time a deadline has been met by in the blockchain space. So it's not surprising that we're coming up to the deadline, right? But that's because there's lots of things to do. But now their attention's here. But deadlines, it still might fail. The deadline still might pass. So who knows? But
there should be an article about Carrot, and it should open up like that. When was the last time anyone in crypto has met a deadline?
Yeah.
It's also a way to impose a bounty on someone. Like you could airdrop tokens to a DAO treasury and tell the devs that you've created an issue, a feature request, or anything like that tied to the completion of that. And those tokens in their treasury can be used to redeem actual rewards if they do the work. So airdropping, yeah. But they seem very confident that they will actually achieve it. That's why they wanted to give us a walkthrough and do a demo. So I believe by next Thursday, when the campaign ends, they should have something really cool ready to show. And that's why I believe we should invite them on our community call and allow them to demo the work. So. And on top of this, they are giving a talk on DAOs and how organizations in the crypto space can leverage Atlantis World for interesting campaigns, NFT drops, all kind of scenarios. And they very much wanted to partner with us about it. And the first thing that came to their mind was showcasing the work that they've done for DXDAO, which is great. If they give a talk and show their audience what they've done for DXDAO, integrating our dApps in Atlantis World, it would be a win-win. And on top of that, they wanted to do something extra. And there was an idea, because we're currently doing the liquidity bootstrapping for Cow Token, and it's going to continue for another couple of months. We realized what they could do is, along with the swapper integration in Atlantis World, they could do something like a cattle farm for the cow wealth pool, where LPs can actually go to Atlantis World and tend to their farms instead of swapper. And so this would be a way to market both Atlantis World and swapper and bring more people to the cow liquidity mining campaigns.
Nice.
And because for the time being, they've been predominantly focused on Polygon, it will shift the focus a little to Gnosis, which is something great. And I believe, Gnosis DAO should appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. So I think this is a great move forward. And I think we're a bit over time, but yeah, I don't know. Great call. And if no one has any other comments, I guess we can end here.
Yeah, just real quick on Double. So,
oh right, sorry, yeah.
They are doing a big announcement on Cello, like this week or next week. So they basically announced their public announcement last week, which is this post right here. Now that it's public, there's a plan. They can theoretically talk about like their raise and stuff like that as well. Their lead investor didn't post anything yet, but we were supposed to wait for that, but we may just go ahead and create. I'm planning to create an article that is basically like it's an announcement of DX Ventures investment into Double and why, mainly the reasons why it makes